RMC is a weak loser who gets destroyed all the time. However, his fate completely changes when he meets this mysteriously strong girl who happens to live right above his house. Then, after training every day and everywhere with her, he walks on the path to become the strongest Giga Chad to get his revenge. Guys, that was the intro. Help us get 669 likes and let's begin. The scene begins with Jae-hyuk's mother introducing him to Min-chae, her friend's daughter, who will be living on the second floor of their house. Jae-hyuk, clearly displeased, whispers complaints to his mother, only to be scolded in return. Left with no choice, Jae-hyuk reluctantly greets Min-chae, avoiding eye contact. Min-chae, full of energy, extends her hand for a handshake and introduces herself cheerfully. Showing little interest, Jae-hyuk half-heartedly shakes her hand and curtly introduces himself. Both Jae-hyuk and Min-chae are 17 years old. Jae-hyuk's two-story house has been arranged for this setup, with him and his mom living on the first floor while Min-chae occupies the second. Min-chae excitedly asks Jae-hyuk if he attends Youngmin High School, revealing that she will transfer there tomorrow. She suggests they get along well, leaving Jae-hyuk blustered as he reluctantly agrees. Jae-hyuk's mother, heading off to work, waves goodbye and instructs him to help Min-chae with anything she needs. Min-chae's polite tone when speaking to his mother leads Jae-hyuk to think she might actually be respectful. However, his own awkwardness around girls, as a self-proclaimed nerd, leaves him sweating nervously. Min-chae rummages through her pocket and pulls out a cigarette, her demeanor shifting as she casually asks Jae-hyuk for a lighter. When Jae-hyuk doesn't have one, Min-chae mocks him, calling him a dumbass in a bully-like tone. Startled by this sudden change, Jae-hyuk is left speechless and unsure how to respond. Leaning closer, Min-chae shouts at him to answer, and seeing him tremble, she calls him a coward for avoiding eye contact. The mounting tension leaves Jae-hyuk feeling as if he might pass out. With a smirk, Min-chae taunts him, asking if he's one of those losers afraid of girls. Being called a loser ignites a sudden spark of anger in Jae-hyuk. The next day at school, Jae-hyuk is confronted by bullies who take his lunch and mockingly call him a loser. Hearing that word again, Jae-hyuk feels both anger and sadness but remains unable to fight back. A flashback reveals how the bullying started earlier in the semester when a bully demanded Jae-hyuk fetch him a banana milk. Summoning courage, Jae-hyuk refused, telling the bully to get it himself. The bully responded with a sudden slap across Jae-hyuk's cheek. Grinning, the bully asked if Jae-hyuk wanted to die or follow orders. Stunned by the hit, Jae-hyuk attempted to argue but was struck again. Covering his head in defense, Jae-hyuk endured more smacks as the bully treated him like a punching bag. Helpless, Jae-hyuk could only endure the assault and move on. That day marked the start of Jae-hyuk's torment, which became a daily routine. Back in the present, the bully criticizes Jae-hyuk's lunch choice, complaining about the red bean buns. With a trembling voice, Jae-hyuk apologizes, claiming he forgot. Unmoved, the bully punches Jae-hyuk hard in the stomach. As Jae-hyuk doubles over in pain, the bully mocks him, asking how many hits he wants. Barely managing to speak, Jae-hyuk mutters, 3. Smirking, the bully declares that 3 times 3 is 9 and proceeds to hit Jae-hyuk 9 times. The bully punches Jae-hyuk repeatedly, counting aloud until he reaches 5. Another student warns the bully that the teacher is coming, prompting the bully to leave after promising to deliver the remaining hits later. Jae-hyuk, on the verge of tears, curses the bullies silently. The teacher enters the classroom and asks everyone to take their seats, accompanied by someone new. To Jae-hyuk's horror, it's Min-chae, who introduces herself politely to the class. Speaking with a sweet tone, Min-chae expresses her desire to get along with everyone. Jae-hyuk is left dumbfounded, unable to believe that Min-chae transferred to his class. The teacher scans the room and assigns Min-chae the empty seat behind Jae-hyuk. Min-chae notices Jae-hyuk, who nervously avoids her gaze, and recognizes him as her downstairs neighbor. She walks confidently to her new seat while Jae-hyuk watches nervously. Jae-hyuk is in disbelief that Min-chae not only joined his class but is sitting right behind him. Remembering his mother's words to look after Min-chae, he resigns himself to his loser status, doubting his ability to help her. Suddenly, Min-chae pokes him from behind with her leg, startling him into turning around. It's Min-chae, who throws a note that hits him squarely in the face to get his attention. Opening the note, Jae-hyuk sees that Min-chae has written for him to act like he doesn't know her and even called him a loser. Feeling angered, Jae-hyuk crumples the letter in his hands but makes a mental note to avoid bothering Min-chae again. After class ends, Jae-hyuk is busy scribbling something onto a piece of paper. Folding the paper neatly, he gets up from his seat and places the note on Min-chae's desk. Taken aback upon receiving the note, Min-chae opens it and examines it closely. The note contains a detailed map of the school that Jae-hyuk drew for her to help her get familiar with the campus. Meanwhile, in the boys' restroom, the bullies corner Jae-hyuk again, determined to give him the remaining 4 punches they had promised. Clenching his fist, the lead bully tells Jae-hyuk to bite down hard, saying he will will punch his jaw next. Trembling slightly, Jae-hyuk clenches his teeth tightly as the bully thrusts his fist toward his face. However, instead of punching, the bully gently brushes Jae-hyuk's cheek with his hand. Changing his tone to a kinder one, the bully assures Jae-hyuk that he won't hit him anymore. Puzzled by this sudden change in behavior, Jae-hyuk can't help but feel confused. Leaning in closer to Jae-hyuk, the bully says he has a favor to ask, prompting Jae-hyuk to ask what it is. The bully asks Jae-hyuk if he is good at studying, catching him off guard. One of the other bullies mocks Jae-hyuk from behind, sarcastically saying he looks more like a game addict than a good student. Ignoring the comment, the lead bully insists he's serious and claims to have heard that Jae-hyuk was ranked first or second in middle school. Grabbing Jae-hyuk's hand, the bully demands his help with the upcoming midterms. Jae-hyuk hesitates and asks the bully what he means by helping him. The bully declares that he wants Jae-hyuk to create cheat sheets for the exam. Hearing this outrageous request, Jae-hyuk feels bewildered and uneasy. One of the bully's friends questions why he suddenly cares about his grades, and the lead bully laughs, saying he wants to study abroad. The bully adds that his mother promised to let him go abroad if he does well on his exams. Turning back to Jae-hyuk, the bully asks if he will help him, his tone carrying an implicit threat. Jae-hyuk starts sweating profusely, knowing that if he gets caught helping the bully cheat, his life will be ruined. Seeing Jae-hyuk hesitate, the bully becomes angry and suddenly knees him hard in the stomach. The unexpected and powerful blow knocks the wind out of Jae-hyuk, leaving him gasping for air. Coughing and spitting, Jae-hyuk collapses to his knees in pain. Kneeling in front of Jae-hyuk, the bully asks once more, in a menacing tone, whether he will help him cheat or not. With tears streaming down his face, Jae-hyuk reluctantly agrees to help. The bully smirks and tells Jae-hyuk he made the right decision, pointing out that they won't need to see each other again if he goes abroad. Noticing the stern expression on Jae-hyuk's face, the bully demands to know why he is glaring. Without warning, the bully punches Jae-hyuk hard in the face, telling him to stop looking at him like that. Following up with 2 more punches, the bully warns Jae-hyuk to relax his expression. Feeling his nose break, Jae-hyuk clutches it in agony, groaning from the pain. Tears still streaming down his face, Jae-hyuk forces a weak smile and apologizes to the bully. Grinning, the bully comments that Jae-hyuk looks better when he smiles. Leaving the restroom with his friends, the bully reminds Jae-hyuk not to forget about the exam. Left alone, Jae-hyuk continues crying, his nose still bleeding profusely. At that moment, Jae-hyuk feels like learning how to fight so he can one day make the bullies pay for all the pain they've caused him. That night, while helping his mom cook dinner, Jae-hyuk is startled when she tells him to go upstairs and invite Min-chae to join them. Shocked by the request, Jae-hyuk asks why he should, and his mom explains that Min-chae is all alone and should eat with them. Feeling nervous, Jae-hyuk becomes uneasy at the thought of dining with a girl, knowing it will be awkward. His mom points out that since Min-chae lives with them now, it's only natural to eat together, urging him to hurry and call her. Having no choice, Jae-hyuk reluctantly climbs the stairs to Min-chae's room. Knocking on the door, he calls out to Min-chae, hoping she responds quickly. After a few knocks, Min-chae tells him to enter, prompting Jae-hyuk to open the door. To his shock, Min-chae steps out of the shower wrapped in a towel, singing a song with the word enter in its lyrics. Startled by Jae-hyuk's presence, Min-chae grabs a kettle from the table and hurls it at his head. The force of the blow sends Jae-hyuk crashing to the floor, where he loses consciousness. After some time, Min-chae, now dressed, shakes Jae-hyuk with her foot, shouting at him to wake up. As Jae-hyuk regains consciousness, Min-chae tells him he was knocked out by the kettle. She angrily asks why he barged into her room without announcing himself. Jae-hyuk apologizes, explaining he heard her say enter and thought she was inviting him in, before mentioning the dinner. With a serious tone, Min-chae warns Jae-hyuk that she will rip his limbs off if he ever enters uninvited again. Glaring at him with disgust, she calls Jae-hyuk a creep, making him feel too intimidated to explain further. Later, Min-chae joins them for dinner and, after tasting the soybean paste stew, exclaims with delight at how delicious it is. Looking pleased, Jae-hyuk's mom says Min-chae's dad mentioned her love for soybean paste stew, so she decided to make it. With a polite tone and a smile, Min-chae gives a thumbs up and declares that this is the best stew she has ever eaten. Hearing Min-chae speak so politely to his mom, Jae-hyuk wonders if she's faking her politeness or if she just truly hates him. Jae-hyuk's mom then asks Min-chae if there's any particular reason she decided to move in here all alone. Min-chae admits that the reason is a bit embarrassing and claims she moved here to study. Hearing this, Jae-hyuk nearly chokes on his food, causing Min-chae to give him a cold, dark look as a warning. Smiling, Min-chae explains that her grandfather owns a building in the countryside and has promised to pass it down to his grandchildren who attend university. Jae-hyuk's mom comments that Min-chae's grandfather must be really cool to own a building. Min-chae says that she's using the building as motivation to study hard. She adds that she used to live in the countryside, where there were no proper academies, which is why she had to move here. Jae-hyuk's mother, pleased with Min-chae's reasoning, claps her hands and encourages her to study hard and become the owner of the building. Jae-hyuk finds it impressive that a grandfather would be willing to pass down an entire building as an incentive. Suddenly, his mother smacks him on the back and proudly declares that he is the perfect person to help with studies since he is the top student in his school. Hearing that Jae-hyuk is the top student, Min-chae is visibly taken aback and looks at him in disbelief. Unable to believe it, Min-chae directly asks Jae-hyuk if he is truly the top student, and he nonchalantly confirms that he is. Jae-hyuk's mother explains that despite his seemingly clueless demeanor, Jae-hyuk has never lost his top spot in academics. After the meal, Min-chae respectfully bows to Jae-hyuk's mother, expressing her gratitude for the delicious food. Jae-hyuk finds himself confused and uncertain about Min-chae's personality and intentions. As she prepares to leave, Min-chae leans closer and whispers to Jae-hyuk, saying that she needs to talk to him about something important. The evening has grown dark as Jae-hyuk follows Min-chae down the stairs, curious about what she has to say. While they walk, Jae-hyuk asks her how far they are going, slightly wary of the situation. Min-chae stops in a secluded corner, sits down, and lights up a cigarette, exhaling smoke as she looks at him. Between puffs of smoke, Min-chae calmly asks Jae-hyuk to help her study, catching him completely off guard. Trying to act tough, Jae-hyuk immediately declines her request without giving it much thought. Surprised by his outright refusal, Min-chae demands to know why, promising to give him a share of the building once she becomes the owner. However, Jae-hyuk stands firm and refuses again, making it clear that he has no interest in the building or in teaching her. He bluntly states that he doesn't want to help a bully like her, no matter the incentive. With that, Jae-hyuk turns around and walks away, leaving Min-chae clenching her teeth in frustration. Seething with anger, Min-chae curses Jae-hyuk under her breath, clearly not used to being turned down. In a desperate attempt to persuade him, she shouts after him, offering to set him up with one of her friends if he helps her study. Jae-hyuk, however, assumes that her friends are probably just like her, bullies, and keeps walking. Min-chae raises her voice, loudly advertising that her friends have attractive features, including big jugs, trying to lure him back. Jae-hyuk momentarily hesitates, almost considering the offer, but quickly shakes his head, refusing to fall for what he suspects is a trap. Right then, a group of rowdy bullies appears, having overheard Min-chae's comments about her friends, and they approach her. The largest of the bullies comments on Min-chae's looks, teasing her and calling her attractive. He crudely asks her which school she attends and extends his hand, inviting her to have a drink with him. Uninterested and unimpressed, Min-chae coldly tells the bully to get lost, showing no fear. Witnessing this interaction, Jae-hyuk begins to panic, fearing the situation might escalate into something dangerous. The bully, undeterred by her rejection, grabs Min-chae's hand and tries to force her to stand, claiming that she must secretly like guys. Growing increasingly worried, Jae-hyuk pulls out his phone, preparing to call the police for help. To everyone's surprise, Min-chae admits that she does like guys, but her tone carries a hint of menace. Hearing this, the bully grins and repeats his offer for her to join them for drinks, clearly misinterpreting her response. In one swift motion, Min-chae grabs the fat bully by the neck, pulls his face down, and delivers a devastating knee strike to his face. Jae-hyuk, who is about to call the police, freezes in disbelief at the sight of Min-chae's sudden and brutal attack. The force of her knee sends the bully crashing to the ground with a loud thud, leaving him incapacitated. Jae-hyuk's jaw drops as he stares in shock, unable to comprehend what just happened. The remaining bullies, enraged by the attack, curse at Min-chae and charge toward her in unison. Min-chae confidently gets into a fighting stance, her posture revealing the skills of a trained martial artist. Sweating nervously, Jae-hyuk watches as one of the bullies lunges at Min-chae with his fist raised. Before the bully can land a punch, Min-chae counters with a precise strike to his face, breaking his nose instantly. She follows up with another powerful punch to the side of his jaw, causing his teeth to scatter as he falls. Like the first bully, the second one collapses to the ground, lying lying motionless beside his friend. Witnessing Minchi's incredible combat skills, Jae-hyuk clasps his hands over his mouth, overwhelmed by how insane the situation is. The final bully, a towering and muscular man, steps forward, swearing at Min-chae as he prepares to fight. He arrogantly boasts about being a second dan black belt in Taekwondo as he charges at her with full force. Min-chae effortlessly dodges his attack and counters by slamming her elbow into his cheek with precision. The single blow sends the last bully sprawling to the ground, joining his defeated companions. With all three bullies knocked out cold, the alley falls silent except for Jae-hyuk's trembling breaths. Completely shaken, Jae-hyuk struggles to process how Min-chae managed to take down all three bullies in a matter of seconds. He suddenly recalls her earlier comment during dinner about practicing sports since she was young. Steeling himself, Jae-hyuk cautiously approaches Min-chae and calls out to her, his voice wavering slightly. Noticing him still standing there, Min-chae frowns and asks why he hasn't left yet. With a trembling voice, Jae-hyuk asks Min-chae about the sport she has been practicing since her childhood. Surprised by his question, Min-chae calmly replies that it's martial arts, her tone tinged with pride. Jae-hyuk is flooded with memories of being bullied and beaten up at school, and an idea begins to form in his mind. Deciding to seize the opportunity, he offers to tutor Min-chae in exchange for her teaching him how to fight. After a moment of consideration, Min-chae firmly declines Jae-hyuk's offer without hesitation. Jae-hyuk presses her for an explanation, curious about her refusal. Min-chae explains that teaching martial arts is far more complicated than it might appear. She claims it requires uncomfortable closeness, including skin-to-skin contact, hugging, and enduring each other's sweat. She then calls Jae-hyuk a dumbass, declaring she will never engage in such activities with him and advises him to join a gym instead. Jae-hyuk counters by explaining he cannot go to the gym since it is frequented by all the bullies from school. Min-chae retorts that his problems are not her concern and reaffirms that she will not help him. She also states her intention to focus on her own studies and suggests Jae-hyuk figure out how to fight independently. With that, she walks away, leaving Jae-hyuk standing there. The bullies lying on the ground begin to groan as they regain consciousness, prompting Jae-hyuk to flee the scene. Later that night, Jae-hyuk lies on his side in bed, unable to sleep, as he keeps replaying the scenes of Min-chae effortlessly defeating the bullies in his mind. A deep yearning stirs within Jae-hyuk's heart to learn how to fight like that and stand up to the bullies at school. The next morning, while Jae-hyuk is getting ready for school, his mom hurries off to work and informs him she has made sandwiches for both him and Min-chae. She insists that Jae-hyuk deliver one of the sandwiches to Min-chae, making him incredibly nervous. Seeing Min-chae first thing in the morning is not something Jae-hyuk looks forward to. However, unable to refuse his mom's request, he climbs the stairs and knocks on Min-chae's door, calling out to her. When there is no immediate response, Jae-hyuk considers sliding the sandwich through the door, but Min-chae's voice suddenly invites him inside. Nervously, Jae-hyuk announces he is entering as he cautiously pushes the door open. Inside, he sees Min-chae brushing her teeth, dressed only in a long shirt. Embarrassed, Jae-hyuk hurriedly closes his eyes, shouting in shock. Min-chae lifts her shirt slightly, revealing she is wearing shorts, to clear up Jae-hyuk's misunderstanding about her attire. With his eyes still tightly shut, Jae-hyuk informs Min-chae he is there to deliver the sandwich his mom prepared for her. Without looking at him, Min-chae instructs Jae-hyuk to leave the sandwich and get out. With trembling hands, Jae-hyuk places the sandwich on a nearby table and notices a workbook lying there. Upon closer inspection, he realizes there are several elementary-level school workbooks stacked together. Curious, Jae-hyuk picks up one and flips through its pages, discovering that Min-chae has been practicing writing the names of fruits. Setting the first workbook aside, he notices all the other books are similarly basic. Jae-hyuk recalls Min-chae mentioning that she focused exclusively on sports from a young age, which might explain her struggles with academics. As Min-chae finishes brushing her teeth, she notices Jae-hyuk still there and angrily demands he leave immediately. Pointing to the workbooks, Jae-hyuk hesitantly asks if she has been working on them. Seeing what Jae-hyuk is referring to, Min-chae's cheeks flush red with embarrassment. She strides over to Jae-hyuk, corners him against the wall, and furiously asks if he thinks they are close enough for him to ask such personal questions. Apologizing profusely, Jae-hyuk stammers as Min-chae pushes him toward the door. Just as he is about to leave, Jae-hyuk turns around and asks if she has reconsidered the offer he made the previous day. He clarifies that he is referring to their deal where he would teach her how to study in exchange for her teaching him how to fight. Nervously, Jae-hyuk tells Min-chae to let him know if she changes her mind, reminding her that her weak academic skills could hinder her future prospects. As he walks out the door, Jae-hyuk comments that studying alone will make it difficult for her to get into a prestigious university like Seoul University. Annoyed by his persistence, Min-chae throws a book at him him, prompting Jae-hyuk to slam the door shut in haste. Later that evening, Jae-hyuk's mom, who is out, calls him and asks him to deliver some sweet potatoes to Min-chae. Jae-hyuk goes upstairs but is startled when Min-chae, who is actually downstairs, notices him and questions why he is loitering outside her room. Holding the plate of sweet potatoes, Jae-hyuk nervously explains that his mom asked him to give them to her. Min-chae tells Jae-hyuk to stay where he is as she climbs the stairs, muttering under her breath. When she reaches him, Min-chae says she wants to have a serious talk with him. She admits that she applied to 3 academies but was rejected by all of them. When Jae-hyuk asks why, Min-chae explains that her elementary-level academic skills were the reason for the rejections. Jae-hyuk reminds her that he predicted this exact outcome earlier that morning. Reluctantly, Min-chae agrees to Jae-hyuk's proposal, asking him to tutor her in academics while she teaches him how to fight. Jae-hyuk is stunned and speechless that Min-chae has actually accepted his offer. With their deal finalized, they decide to start the tutoring sessions the following day. Jae-hyuk suggests beginning with basic English lessons and advises Min-chae to treat the session as a formal class. Adjusting his glasses with a sweaty nose, Jae-hyuk announces that they will do a quick test and asks her the meaning of the word this. Min-chae responds by naming a cigarette brand called This Blue. Jae-hyuk asks her what the word that means and if she knows how to spell bus, both of which Min-chae doesn't know. Realizing she doesn't know anything, Jae-hyuk is bewildered as he declares they will have to start with the basic alphabet. So, Jae-hyuk begins teaching Min-chae both the capital and small letters and how to recognize them. After an hour of the English lesson, it's time for Jae-hyuk to begin his fighting lessons. Sitting on her bed, Min-chae explains that it's important to know what kind of opponent you're facing and gather information on them. Jae-hyuk asks if that's important, and Min-chae affirms it is, saying it's crucial to know the opponent's weaknesses. So, starting from this point, the next day, the two are on a mission to spy on the bully at the school. Jae-hyuk knows where the bullies smoke during school, so he and Min-chae go to that spot to spy, with Min-chae sitting on Jae-hyuk's shoulders to look over a large wall. After a while, the bullies arrive at the location. The leader of the bullies, Sangbom, asks his friends to pass him the cigarette. As they begin lighting up their cigarettes and start smoking, Min-chae watches them from behind the wall. One of the bullies asks Sangbom about his fight after school, and he confirms, saying a guy has been bothering him, so he'll fight him. With a laugh, the side bully asks where they will be fighting, and Sangbom says, after school in the underground parking lot. Hearing this, Min-chae tells Jae-hyuk about the fight and suggests they should go and watch it. Unable to hold Min-chae any longer, Jae-hyuk's legs start to tremble as he begs her to get off now. Unable to stand straight, Jae-hyuk falls and crashes to the ground on his front, with Min-chae slamming down onto his back. Feeling angry, Min-chae kicks Jae-hyuk on his back, making him groan in pain. Later that day, after school, Jae-hyuk, wearing a hoodie, asks Min-chae why they are even here to watch Sangbom fight. With a cigarette in her mouth, Min-chae points out that they are here to observe how Sangbom fights and try to find counters to him. Jae-hyuk says that makes sense, and Min-chae tells him to keep quiet and just do as she says without asking questions. With an unsure look, Jae-hyuk asks if he is even learning to fight and says he is becoming more like a shuttle. Turning back to him, Min-chae reminds him of the difference in their fighting levels and tells him not to make a fuss over carrying her bags. She warns him not to think about becoming equal to her, making Jae-hyuk tremble as he agrees. Right then, he notices the bullies arrive at the scene. Getting to her feet, Min-chae suggests they follow the bullies. Within minutes, the whole parking lot becomes crowded with students. Some girls notice Min-chae and ask her if she is the new transfer student and if she is also here to watch the fight, which Min-chae affirms. The girls then offer Min-chae a cigarette, but Min-chae declines, saying she just had one earlier. They notice Jae-hyuk, his face covered by a hoodie, and Min-chae replies that he's a hometown junior of hers. Jae-hyuk is covering his face because he doesn't want to be found out, as losers aren't allowed to watch fights. The girl looks over the crowd and tells others that the fight is about to start. Min-chae instructs Jae-hyuk to watch the fight closely. Sangbom and the guy he is fighting step forward, both ready to settle their score, glaring at each other. Sangbom asks the guy why he is always pestering him. The other guy accuses Sangbom of breaking his friend's finger, which Sangbom claims was an accident. The guy then demands that Sangbom apologize, and Sangbom places a hand on the guy's shoulder, saying sorry. Suddenly, Sangbom pierces his right thumb into the guy's left eye, making him scream in pain. Sangbom swings his arm and lands a punch on the guy's cheek, cursing him. Sangbom follows up with another punch, and as the guy tries to fight back, Sangbom quickly kicks him with force in the gut. Sangbom punches him once again, sending him crashing to the ground. Standing over the defeated opponent, Sangbom laughs, saying the fight was so lame. Jae-hyuk is literally shaking, probably from PTSD, as he has been beaten like this many times before. Min-chae, on the other other hand, looks intrigued and watches without blinking. Claiming he isn't done yet, Sangbom swings his leg powerfully and kicks the defeated guy in the head. Calling the guy a loser, Sangbom lands more kicks on him. The scene is brutal, and after a few kicks, the guy's nose and teeth are broken and he begins crying, begging Sangbom to stop. At this point, Jae-hyuk is even more shaken up. Kneeling before the guy, Sangbom grabs his hand. He raises a fire extinguisher with his other hand and prepares to smash it onto the guy's hand. Jae-hyuk receives chills of fear as he hears the horrifying scream of the guy's hand getting broken. Later that night, Jae-hyuk is at the playground with Min-chae, his hands over his head, still shaken up by the brutal beating he witnessed. With a trembling body, Jae-hyuk gasps that there's no way he can win against Sangbom. Kicking Jae-hyuk, Min-chae snaps at him to stop whining. She assures him that just 1 month of training will be enough. Hearing this, Jae-hyuk is surprised and asks what she means. Min-chae repeats that in 1 month, Jae-hyuk will be strong enough to defeat Sangbom. She then asks him if he wants to do this or not. Jae-hyuk is speechless, wondering if Min-chae is right and if he can really beat Sangbom. Seeing Jae-hyuk so hesitant, Min-chae calls him a loser and tells him to trust her. Jae-hyuk isn't 100% sure if he will win, but he knows he can't give up now, so he agrees to listen to Min-chae and do as she says. Let's fast forward to a month later, and as usual, while in class, Sangbom approaches Jae-hyuk, reminding him about helping him with the exam. Min-chae watches from the corner of her eyes, expecting something. After the class finishes, she walks up to Jae-hyuk and asks if he is ready to put everything he's learned over the past month to the test and fight Sangbom. But Jae-hyuk still looks nervous and isn't sure if he can fight. Seeing this behavior, Min-chae snaps at him, calling him a coward for thinking about quitting without even trying. She assures him that she will handle it if he loses and tells him to just try it first. The exam is about to start, and the students are all ready as the teacher tells them to put their things away. She also reminds them that cheating is not allowed, and anyone caught will get 0 marks instantly. Min-chae scribbles something on a small piece of paper and folds it up neatly. Then she looks over at Sangbom and throws the paper toward him. The piece of paper lands on Sangbom's desk and bounces right on top of his answer sheet. Turning to Jae-hyuk, Sangbom thinks Jae-hyuk must have thrown that paper at him with answers written on it. He seems impressed that Jae-hyuk solved the questions so quickly, finishing just 5 minutes into the exam. Meanwhile, Jae-hyuk feels Sangbom staring at him and is nervous about why he is doing that. With a hopeful smile, Sangbom grabs the paper, opens it, and squints his eyes, noticing something. He sees that what's written on the paper is "Let's fight." Seeing such audacity from Jae-hyuk, Sangbom clenches his teeth in anger, veins bulging on his face, as he wants to murder Jae-hyuk right now. 1 month ago, when Jae-hyuk first began his training, he started by carrying Min-chae up the long staircase. Min-chae is busy on her phone while Jae-hyuk gasps for breath, nearly collapsing under her weight, and asks if it's really necessary to carry her. With an annoyed voice, Min-chae bumps her fist on Jae-hyuk's head, telling him to trust her and continue climbing. With his legs trembling, Jae-hyuk doesn't argue and keeps walking up the stairs. After a while, Min-chae notices something and points to it, ordering Jae-hyuk to go over there. Around the corner, Jae-hyuk gets down on all fours, acting like a table, while Min-chae sits on his back and starts smoking. Min-chae says Jae-hyuk forgot to bring her slippers when he carried her up, so now she's using him like a chair. Unable to take the humiliation, Jae-hyuk begins twitching his body, nearly making Min-chae fall off. Later that day, they visit a restaurant for lunch, and Min-chae tells Jae-hyuk to eat a lot and pay at the end. She points out that strength comes from body weight and tells Jae-hyuk he needs to gain 10 kilos in a month. Jae-hyuk bellows out, asking how he can possibly do that, and Min-chae simply tells him to eat more and stop whining. Thinking it's better not to argue, Jae-hyuk starts eating his fill. Min-chae finishes eating quickly and tells Jae-hyuk to hurry up, as he struggles to finish all the food, having never eaten this much at once before. After a while, the two of them head home, with Jae-hyuk once again carrying Min-chae on his back. Nervously, Jae-hyuk asks if she's actually going to teach him to fight or just make him carry her around. Upon reaching their home, Min-chae points to 2 large boxes that have just been delivered and tells Jae-hyuk to carry them up the stairs to the roof. Inside the boxes are various fighting equipment, such as helmets, shoulder pads, boxing gloves, and more. Seeing all the equipment, Jae-hyuk asks what it's for, and Min-chae tells him it will be his training gear. She claims she asked an old friend to send them and orders Jae-hyuk to scatter them around. She mentions that the friend she asked is the same one she mentioned to Jae-hyuk, the one with the huge rack. Hearing this, Jae-hyuk recalls that night when Min-chae had offered to pack match him up with her friend if he helped her study. Jae-hyuk gulps nervously, wondering if that girl is really his type, but he quickly shakes his head, pushing those thoughts out of his mind. Min-chae suggests they start with the basics, like throwing a simple punch. She thrusts her fist at Jae-hyuk's face, not making contact, but the force of the air from the punch sends his hair flying back, leaving him shocked. Min-chae explains that the move she just demonstrated is called the basic 1-2. She then swings her leg, making a kicking motion in the air, calling it the low kick. Demonstrating this, Min-chae tells Jae-hyuk to practice the 1-2 punch followed by the low kick until he becomes an expert. She tells him to do this combo non-stop for 2 weeks, and if he can't, he should just quit. Although anxious, Jae-hyuk agrees to do it. Thus begins Jae-hyuk's intense training session. At first, he's terrible, but Min-chae oversees every move and corrects him. Jae-hyuk follows Min-chae's instructions carefully, practicing his punches while holding a dumbbell to maintain his arm position. Day and night, morning and evening, Jae-hyuk practices the technique without stopping. After what feels like an eternity, one morning Jae-hyuk drops the dumbbell and, with just his fist, throws the perfect punch. Watching from the side, Min-chae agrees that Jae-hyuk has improved significantly. She then grabs the boxing pads and puts them on, declaring that Jae-hyuk will now try kicking. The training continues for 2 whole weeks, and now Jae-hyuk has moved on to wearing UFC-style gloves. With all his force, he thrusts his fist forward, followed by a powerful kick. Min-chae says Jae-hyuk is actually getting the form and has improved a lot, to which Jae-hyuk thanks her. The next technique Min-chae says she will teach Jae-hyuk is the tackle. Jae-hyuk asks if the tackle is like the one in football. Min-chae explains that in fighting, a tackle is used to push the opponent to the ground. She then tells Jae-hyuk to try tackling her and make her lose her balance. Jae-hyuk gasps in shock, asking if he can really do that, and Min-chae assures him she won't hit him and tells him to go for it. Getting into position, Jae-hyuk prepares to charge at Min-chae, thinking that as a boy he should be able to overpower her, but he quickly realizes he's wrong when he doesn't even manage to budge Min-chae by an inch after slamming into her. Min-chae asks Jae-hyuk if he's even trying and then lifts her knee, slamming it into Jae-hyuk's face. Jae-hyuk groans in pain while Min-chae explains that in a real fight, this is what happens if you fail to tackle your opponent. Min-chae then declares she will try to tackle Jae-hyuk and tells him to try to stop her. As Jae-hyuk braces himself, Min-chae warns him that Sangbam is bigger and stronger than him, so he needs to make the perfect tackle or risk getting his face blown. With a smirk, she says she will teach Jae-hyuk a special technique before charging at him. For the next 2 weeks, Jae-hyuk undergoes even more grueling training, planking with Min-chae on his back, running up the stairs while carrying Min-chae, doing princess carry squats while holding Min-chae in his arms, practicing punches and kicks under Min-chae's supervision, trying to learn how to tackle Min-chae, and even sparring with Min-chae, with the result always being Jae-hyuk getting beaten up. But one day, Jae-hyuk punches Min-chae back, which she blocks, and then follows up with a kick. Min-chae blocks the kick as well, but she does receive a small cut on the side of her hand where she blocked. The two of them would train together every afternoon after school. Of course, alongside the training, Jae-hyuk tutored Min-chae in her studies whenever he had the chance. And just like that, 1 month passed. Back in the present, Min-chae has just challenged Sangbam to a fight, leaving Jae-hyuk nervous, though unaware of what she wrote in the note. His mouth trembling, he asks Min-chae what she wrote in that note to make Sangbam so angry. Min-chae sternly tells Jae-hyuk that it's not the time to worry about that and orders him to focus on the fight. Jae-hyuk focuses his eyes ahead at the large crowd that has already gathered for the fight. Sangbam is also there, glaring at Jae-hyuk with bulging veins, while Jae-hyuk is a little shaky from all the pressure. The night before the fight, Jae-hyuk and Min-chae met outside the house, and while Min-chae smoked, Jae-hyuk trembled with anxiety. Seeing Jae-hyuk's nervousness, Min-chae asked him if he wanted a smoke to calm his nerves, but Jae-hyuk declined. Min-chae taunted Jae-hyuk, calling him a loser for being so nervous about a fight that hadn't even happened yet. Jae-hyuk admitted he was nervous and confessed again in the side of his head, asking if he is back to normal now. He continues delivering punch after punch, then lifts his knee and slams it into Jae-hyuk's gut. Jae-hyuk gasps for breath, feeling the intense pain from the attack. Grabbing Jae-hyuk by his hair, Sangbam asks if he has realized his place now, and thrusts another punch into Jae-hyuk's face. With powerful force, Sangbam's punch lands squarely on Jae-hyuk's face. The students witnessing the fight note that this is exactly what they expect from Sangbam, trashing Jae-hyuk like this. A girl points out that Jae-hyuk must be out of his mind to challenge Sangbam to a fight like this. Holding his hand over his bleeding nose, Jae-hyuk begs Sangbam to stop. Tears stream down Jae-hyuk's face as he apologizes and asks Sangbam to spare him. Seeing Jae-hyuk crying, the spectators laugh and mock him even more. Sangbam stares at Jae-hyuk, sobbing and apologizing, then lets go of him, saying he feels pity for him, but he quickly follows up by kicking Jae-hyuk, sending him flying back and crashing into the wall. Dashing forward, Sangbam continues delivering punch after punch, vowing to make Jae-hyuk pee his pants. Meanwhile, Jae-hyuk raises his arms in front of his face, absorbing all the punches. By this point, Jae-hyuk has completely lost his confidence and is back to being the coward he was a month ago. He recalls all the fighting training he did with Min-chai, the training that consumed his days and nights. Despite all that intense training, Jae-hyuk is too scared to fight back and strike Sangbam. Min-chai had told Jae-hyuk that in a fight, the most important thing is mental strength. She had said that once someone loses their mental strength, the fight will be over for them. Jae-hyuk had admitted that his mental strength is too weak and asked how he can possibly win. Min-chai had offered to teach Jae-hyuk what he can do if he can't manage to keep his mental strength. Reaching her arms forward, Min-chai hugged Jae-hyuk and grabbed his arms from behind, saying this move is crucial. After performing the move, Min-chai said they can go for a takedown, but since Jae-hyuk is too weak, she offered to teach something else. Now back in the present, Jae-hyuk is on the verge of mental collapse as he continues to take hit after hit. Remembering the technique Min-chai has taught him, Jae-hyuk lunges at Sangbam and clings to him, almost like hugging him. Surprised by Jae-hyuk's actions, Sangbam asks what he is doing. The next move Min-chai had taught Jae-hyuk is to bite his opponent's ear off, which is exactly what Jae-hyuk does. Feeling his ear nearly bitten off, Sangbam lets out a yell of pain. Following Min-chai's next suggestion, Jae-hyuk quickly leaps to Sangbam's side while Sangbam clutches his ear in pain. As blood leaks down his arm, Sangbam grits his teeth, cursing Jae-hyuk. Jae-hyuk locks his tear-filled eyes on Sangbam and sprints toward him, delivering two fast punches to Sangbam's face using the 1-2 punch technique he has learned. Seeing Jae-hyuk get back in form, Min-chai looks pleased, while others are bewildered. Jae-hyuk bellows that he is just getting started as a surge of confidence replaces his fear. Clutching his bleeding nose, Sangbam curses in rage, feeling the stinging pain and looking bewildered. He is utterly taken aback that Jae-hyuk actually attacked him and shouts loudly at Jae-hyuk in anger. Meanwhile, Jae-hyuk is considering his next move while Sangbam remains distracted. His next move is the tackle, a technique Min-chai had taught him weeks ago. While teaching this move, Min-chai had made it clear that Sangbam is much larger, so Jae-hyuk might fail to tackle him, prompting her to teach him a special type of tackle. She then charged at Jae-hyuk and used a groin tackle on him, pushing him backward and causing him to lose his breath for a second. Jae-hyuk was sent crashing to the floor with Min-chai on top of him, asking if that hurt. Trembling from the pain, Jae-hyuk groaned, admitting that it really hurts like hell. Smiling, Min-chai explained that this technique confuses the opponent as they never realize where the pain is coming from. Jae-hyuk asked if this move wasn't dirty, but Min-chai replied that in a fight, everything is fair. She reminded Jae-hyuk that he wouldn't be fighting in a proper martial arts tournament, so no rules would apply. She also explained that in Kudo martial arts, groin kicks are allowed when there's a significant weight difference. Furthermore, she pointed out that Sangbam was the one being dirty by constantly bullying Jae-hyuk, and on top of that, he was stronger and larger than anyone else in the class. Back in the present, Sangbam is still whining after being hit by Jae-hyuk, something no one had ever dared to do to him. While Sangbam is distracted, Jae-hyuk charges at him and uses the groin tackle on him. The technique knocks the breath out of Sangbam as he is slammed against the wall with a loud thud. His head hits the wall, making his teeth rattle, and spittle flies from his mouth. The kids watching are left open-mouthed in shock at the scene. A girl who had doubted Jae-hyuk before points out that Sangbam's skull might have cracked. Meanwhile, Sangbam starts feeling dizzy, seeing 3 Jae-hyuks as Jae-hyuk's punch collides with his face. Seizing the opportunity, Jae-hyuk continues landing punch after punch on Sangbom. All the rage he had accumulated over time pours out onto Sangbom. Still holding the lighter in his hand, he continues landing fist after fist, shouting from the depth of his heart. Eyes tearing up, he blames Sangbom for making his school life miserable, continuing to hit him. Watching Sangbom getting pummeled, the other bullies stand bewildered. Minchai realizes that Jae-hyuk is losing control over his actions and worries that it might backfire. Unfortunately, she's right, as Sangbom suddenly kicks Jae-hyuk in the stomach, taking him by surprise. While Jae-hyuk is momentarily distracted, clutching his stomach, Sangbom quickly lunges at him and locks his head with his arm. His face swollen from the beating, Sangbom starts choking Jae-hyuk, asking if he learned martial arts just to fight him. Smirking through his bloodied mouth, Sangbom declares that he knows a move called the guillotine choke, and Jae-hyuk will soon pass out. Sangbom tightens his muscles, increasing the pressure around Jae-hyuk's throat to suffocate him. Desperately, Jae-hyuk tries to free his head, but is unable to. Then he realizes he still has the lighter in his hand, so he flicks it on and brings it closer to Sangbom's arm. Feeling the sudden heat burning his skin, Sangbom lets go of Jae-hyuk while yelling out in pain. As Sangbom is distracted, Jae-hyuk makes his next move and kicks Sangbom in the lower leg. In doing so, he recalls a moment of training with Minchai. Minchai had shown him how to aim for the opponent's chin after tackling them to make them fall. She had confidently stated that even if it's Sangbom, he will surely go down if hit in the jaw. Back in the present, Jae-hyuk eyes Sangbom's chin, focusing on his target. Raising his clenched fist, he thrusts it forward with all the force he can muster. The punch lands squarely on Sangbom's chin, causing his legs to give out and his balance to falter. With a loud thud, Sangbom crashes to the ground. The onlookers are so shocked by this that they are left speechless. Having successfully taken down Sangbom, Jae-hyuk breathes heavily, exhaling in relief and victory. He looks down to see that Sangbom is passed out, realizing that he actually managed to defeat him. Minchai watches Jae-hyuk in silence before a smile appears on her lips, feeling proud of him. Then she turns around and walks away. Meanwhile, Jae-hyuk also turns and runs away with all his remaining strength, hoping to avoid any ambushes from the other bullies. Seeing Jae-hyuk run, one of the bullies asks if they should chase him, but another replies that they shouldn't. Jae-hyuk continues running, and for the first time in so long, his face is cheerful, with a large smile on his face, the kind of smile only victory can bring. Jae-hyuk had thought his life would be easier after defeating the biggest bully, but he was wrong, as a fat bully named Hong Daebong learns of Sangbom's defeat and decides to target Jae-hyuk. After his humiliating defeat by Jae-hyuk, Sangbom became absent from school and only showed up after 3 days. Jae-hyuk was worried that Sangbom might try to seek revenge immediately, but surprisingly, Sangbom didn't attempt anything. In fact, Sangbom didn't even try to make eye contact with Jae-hyuk. Whatever the reason, Jae-hyuk felt relieved that he wouldn't have to get into another fight. While sitting in his seat, Jae-hyuk feels a poke from behind, and when he turns around, he sees Minchai trying to get his attention. She flicks a note towards Jae-hyuk, which smacks him square in the face. Opening the note, Jae-hyuk sees that Minchai has ordered him to go and buy her some bread. Seeing this, he turns around in anger, only to see Minchai making a lips gesture, signaling him to buy it. Feeling it's best to not argue, Jae-hyuk gets up and leaves the classroom, heading to the canteen. Although Jae-hyuk is being treated like Minchai's personal butler, he thinks it's still better than being beaten up. In fact, he feels much happier and more relieved. Suddenly, a large bully confronts Jae-hyuk in the corridor, asking if he's the one who beat Sangbom. Taken aback, Jae-hyuk confirms that he is the one. The bullies then turn around and leave, laughing at the fact that Sangbom lost to someone like Jae-hyuk. Shortly after, another guy confronts Jae-hyuk, asking if he's the one who beat Sangbom. Acting like a creep, the guy does a full circle around Jae-hyuk, examining him from all angles with curiosity. After a moment, the guy laughs, saying that Jae-hyuk must have won by sheer luck. This continues as, minutes later, another group of bullies confronts Jae-hyuk, asking if he beat Sangbom. But it's not all bad, as some cute girls, clearly impressed with Jae-hyuk, come up to him and start taking his pictures. Even Daebong, the fat guy, walks past Jae-hyuk, muttering something under his breath. By now, Jae-hyuk is completely baffled by all the attention he's receiving, considering he's usually a quiet kid. He hears murmurs and whispers following him everywhere he goes, so he realizes the news must have spread all over the school by now. After a while, he returns from the canteen, holding some snacks for Minchai. On the way, a group of lanky and loser-like students block Jae-hyuk's path and say they're outsiders from other classes, in other words, losers. They claim that they heard Jae-hyuk is a loser too, but somehow managed to beat a bully, and they're here to congratulate him and pay their respects. They overwhelm Jae-hyuk with their praises, treating him like a hero among the losers. Just then, two large guys walk toward the group of losers, causing them to stand aside to let the bigger guys pass. Noticing the losers trembling in fear from those two, 2, Jae-hyuk realizes that they are, in fact, typical losers. The loser in glasses whispers to Jae-hyuk that they're all rooting for him. He then informs Jae-hyuk that while he was in the bathroom, he overheard someone talking about beating up Jae-hyuk. The loser points out that whoever that was, he sounded like he wanted to boost his reputation and establish dominance. With that, the losers turn around and walk away, leaving Jae-hyuk feeling uneasy. During the lunch period, Jae-hyuk is on the rooftop, doing planks while Min-chae sits on his back, enjoying the snacks. Min-chae says that since there are no chairs on the rooftop, she's using Jae-hyuk like a chair instead. She adds that this is practically exercise and snaps at Jae-hyuk to stop whining. Trembling from the pressure and sweating, Jae-hyuk tells Min-chae about the information he heard from the losers. Someone wants to beat him up, but Min-chae doesn't seem surprised and says that it's normal for students to challenge those who win. Hearing this, Jae-hyuk asks in horror if his life will never be peaceful now that he's won. And, in a shock, he loses his balance and falls flat on his front. Getting to her feet, Min-chae says that since the test finished yesterday, she'll take the day off from tutoring. But Jae-hyuk disagrees and declares that he'll tutor her no matter what, so she has a shot at getting into a university. This makes Min-chae angry, and she curses before kicking the juice packet away. Later that night, Jae-hyuk and Min-chae are about to start the tutoring session when Jae-hyuk asks Min-chae to show him her midterm score estimates. Min-chae asks why she should show Jae-hyuk her scores, and Jae-hyuk says he just wants to see how well she did. Fuming with anger, Min-chae reaches into her bag, pulls out her score sheet, and hands it to Jae-hyuk. Jae-hyuk sees that Min-chae has the lowest scores in all 6 subjects. Bewildered by this, he asks Min-chae to explain why her scores are so low, prompting Min-chae to blame Jae-hyuk for being a bad teacher. Clenching her teeth in frustration, she tells Jae-hyuk not to blame her but to take responsibility for being a poor teacher. Grabbing Jae-hyuk by his collar, Min-chae shouts that she helped him win the fight, so it's his responsibility to make sure she gets better grades. Pulling away, Jae-hyuk says he's grateful for Min-chae's help in the fight, but he can't improve her grades alone. Min-chae snaps at Jae-hyuk, asking if he's saying she's not putting in enough effort. Slamming his fists onto the table, Jae-hyuk shouts at her that she needs to work harder on her own. While the two are in a heated argument, Jae-hyuk's mom walks in, carrying a plate of freshly cut apple slices. Min-chae instantly changes her attitude, becoming calmer, standing up to grab the plate and thanking Jae-hyuk's mom. With a smile, Min-chae says that next time, she'll help peel the apples. Seeing Min-chae speak so kindly to his mom, Jae-hyuk thinks she actually loathes him, telling the kids to study hard. Jae-hyuk's mom walks out of the room and closes the door behind her. Jae-hyuk asks Min-chae if she knows how to peel apples, and Min-chae, now back to her original behavior, rests her legs on the table and says she can't. They then return to studying, with Jae-hyuk teaching Min-chae like an actual teacher, using the whiteboard to explain things. But Min-chae looks like she doesn't understand anything, and when Jae-hyuk asks her why she's not understanding, she blames him for not explaining clearly. An hour later, Jae-hyuk declares that today's lesson is over, and Min-chae, relieved, stretches her arms and asks Jae-hyuk to go out with her. They head to the area around the corner, where Min-chae starts smoking while Jae-hyuk, standing by the stairs, asks why she always drags him along. Min-chae says that Jae-hyuk is there to keep watch and claims that the last time she saw a cop around here, being called a loser in every sentence. Jae-hyuk reminds Min-chae that she would stop calling him that if he won the fight, but Min-chae says she never said that, making Jae-hyuk shout that she did. He then recalls that, the day before his fight, Min-chae had said she would call him by his name if he won. Min-chae thinks for a moment, then finally agrees to keep her word, congratulates Jae-hyuk for winning the fight, and calls him Jae-young. Being called by the wrong name, Jae-hyuk is taken aback. He then shouts, accusing Min-chae of not even knowing his name. The next day at school, Jae-hyuk enters his classroom, thinking about how he can improve Min-chae's grades. Upon entering the class, he notices that Daebong, the fat guy, is already seated at his desk. Walking toward Daebong, Jae-hyuk tells him that he's sitting in his seat, sniffing his hands, fresh from inside his own underpants. Daebong greets Jae-hyuk. Getting up to his feet, Daebong places his other hand on Jae-hyuk's head and says he wants to beat Jae-hyuk up. He then formally challenges Jae-hyuk to a fight. Busy with her phone, Min-chae looks up upon hearing the challenge. Taken aback by this challenge, Jae-hyuk asks loudly why he should fight, as he has no reason to. Daebong suddenly slaps Jae-hyuk across the face and grins, saying that should be more than enough reason to fight. Daebong grabs Jaehyuk and hoists him high above his head before throwing him down, sending him crashing onto the desk. Jaehyuk bounces off 2 desks like a ball before coming to a painful halt on the ground. Trembling from the pain coursing through his body, Jaehyuk feels his head pounding. Leaning closer to Jaehyuk, Daebong taunts him, asking if he is fired up enough to fight back now. Sprawled on the ground, Jaehyuk looks up at Daebong, feeling small and powerless against a giant. Seeing Jaehyuk give up so easily, Daebong declares that beating Jaehyuk is equivalent to defeating Sangbam as well. Laughing at his so-called double victory, Daebong strides out of the classroom, his laughter echoing in the hallway. Sighing in relief that it didn't escalate further, Jaehyuk hopes Daebong is satisfied and won't return for more. Meanwhile, Min-chae, who witnessed everything, observes the scene with a curious expression. The next day, Daebong grabs Jaehyuk, strips him down to his shorts, and carries him upside down by his legs through the school corridor. Clenching his teeth in humiliation, Jaehyuk never imagined he would face such a treatment. Students in the corridor, recognizing Jaehyuk as the one who defeated Sangbam, are shocked to see him being toyed with like a rag doll. Picking up a small spider, Daebong moves it dangerously close to Jaehyuk's mouth, as though he intends to feed it to him. Jaehyuk, keeping his mouth tightly shut, receives a stinging slap across his face from an angry Daebong. Daebong warns Jaehyuk to stop resisting and do as he's told if he doesn't want to face even worse consequences. While another bully holds Jaehyuk still to prevent him from moving, Daebong strikes him several more times. The second bully forcibly pries Jaehyuk's mouth open, allowing Daebong to shove the spider inside and force-feed it to him. After the spider ordeal, Daebong laughs maniacally and mockingly calls Jaehyuk Spider-Man. Tears streaming down his cheeks, Jaehyuk weakly asks Daebong why he is subjecting him to such cruelty. Standing tall, Daebong smugly replies that he bullies Jaehyuk simply because it's fun for him. He adds that Jaehyuk's reactions make it even more entertaining and vows to continue tormenting him. To further humiliate him, Daebong claims that losers like Jaehyuk don't need a reason to be bullied, it's just their fate. With this cruel declaration, Daebong and his gang walk away, leaving Jaehyuk trembling and alone. Jaehyuk remains rooted in place as tears fall silently from his eyes onto his trembling hands. He feels utterly worthless, as if his hard-earned victory over Sangbam means absolutely nothing now. Later that night, Jaehyuk arrives at Min-chae's room, grabs a marker, and quietly tells her it's time to study, his face reflecting deep despair. Lying on her bed with her phone in hand, Min-chae nonchalantly replies that she's busy chatting and will start studying in a second. Jaehyuk, saying nothing, sits down at the nearby bench, his expression as gloomy as the events of the day. His thoughts linger on the humiliation he faced at school and the despair of being bullied again, despite his recent triumph over Sangbam. Daebong's words about accepting his fate as a loser replay in Jaehyuk's mind, crushing his confidence further. Knowing he has no chance against Daebong, who is like an unstoppable elephant, Jaehyuk feels utterly hopeless. In a barely audible voice, Jaehyuk asks Min-chae if she thinks he stands any chance of defeating that pig. Still engrossed in her phone, Min-chae turns to him and flatly states that he absolutely cannot beat Daebong. As expected, Jaehyuk agrees with her assessment. However, Min-chae surprises him by adding that it's not entirely impossible for him to win. Startled by her words, Jaehyuk looks at her with hope and asks if she means there's a way to win. Sounding desperate, Jaehyuk begins pleading with Min-chae to teach him how to defeat Daebong. Min-chae, still focused on her phone, calmly points out that it won't be easy and that they'll need some special equipment. She then dials a number on her phone and tells Jaehyuk that she's calling her friend to help with the plan. Jaehyuk remembers this friend vividly, as Min-chae has often mentioned her and her so-called huge racks. When the friend picks up, Min-chae starts chatting casually, as though she's talking to a longtime companion. After some light-hearted conversation, Min-chae tells her friend that she needs something specific for the loser, Jaehyuk. Jaehyuk wonders nervously what Min-chae could possibly be requesting from her friend. Min-chae suddenly asks her friend if she wants to speak to Jaehyuk directly, leaving him utterly flustered. Jaehyuk, too shy to face anyone, waves his hands frantically, signaling that he doesn't want to talk. Min-chae ignores his protests, thrusts the phone toward him, and tells him to stop being a loser and feel honored to speak with her friend. Hesitantly, with trembling hands, Jaehyuk takes the phone and nervously says hello. The girl on the other end immediately bursts into mocking laughter, calling Jaehyuk a loser and hurling insults. To make matters worse, she says his voice alone is making her nauseous and jokes about wanting to puke. Hearing these harsh words, Jaehyuk lowers the phone, his mood sinking even further into despair. A few days later, a parcel arrives, and Min-chae takes Jaehyuk to the rooftop, telling him the contents of the box hold the key to his victory. Eager and curious, Jaehyuk opens the box and is taken aback by what he sees inside. Fast forward 3 weeks, Jaehyuk and Daebong stand face to face, surrounded surrounded by a large crowd of students eager to watch the fight. Feigning toughness, Daebong looks at Jaehyuk and asks if he has gone insane for challenging him. Pointing to Jaehyuk's oversized boxing gloves, Daebong demands to know what he is wearing and why. The crowd erupts into laughter, mocking Jaehyuk's strange gloves and ridiculing his appearance. Daebong asks if Jaehyuk is auditioning for a comedy show dressed as a joker. Undeterred by the ridicule, Jaehyuk raises his massive gloves in front of his face, ready to fight. As Minchai had predicted, these oversized gloves are Jaehyuk's only chance to land a hit on the hulking pig. 3 weeks earlier, Jaehyuk opened the mysterious parcel and found oversized boxing gloves inside. Pointing at the gloves, Jaehyuk asks Minchai what they are and why they are so ridiculously large, but she tells him to try them on. Wearing the massive gloves, Jaehyuk complains that they are nearly half the size of his body and awkwardly whines about their fit. Minchai snaps at Jaehyuk, firmly instructing him to trust her plan and stop asking so many questions. Picking up a baseball bat, Minchai raises it and tells Jaehyuk to use the gloves to block her attacks as part of their training. Feeling a surge of fear, Jaehyuk protests, saying that it's too dangerous, and begins crying. Unbothered, Minchai reminds Jaehyuk about Daebong's massive size and points out that his attacks will feel as strong as being hit with a bat. Realizing he has no other option, Jaehyuk reluctantly agrees. With a step forward, Minchai swings the bat with all her strength, striking the gloves and sending Jaehyuk flying backward. Landing with a loud crash, Jaehyuk smacks against the ground, lying flat on his back. Frustrated, Minchai scolds Jaehyuk for not bracing himself properly and tells him to strengthen his stance. She warns him that if he cannot hold his ground, he will have to endure rigorous lower body training to build strength. Defeated, Jaehyuk agrees to focus on strengthening his legs. Thus, Jaehyuk's intense training begins, starting with duck walks to school each day under Minchai's supervision. Even during class, Jaehyuk practices sitting in an invisible chair position instead of resting on his actual seat. Minchai closely monitors him during meals to ensure he continues his invisible chair routine. Jaehyuk even continues the practice while using the bathroom. Whenever Minchai takes a smoking break, Jaehyuk becomes her makeshift portable chair, holding his position despite the added weight. While sitting on Jaehyuk, Minchai teases him mercilessly, trying to distract and challenge his focus and resolve. Inevitably, Jaehyuk's nerves get the better of him under Minchai's taunts, causing him to collapse in embarrassment and exhaustion. After 2 weeks of intense training, Jaehyuk feels ready to test his strength as Minchai prepares to strike him again with the bat. With all her might, Minchai swings the bat forward, hitting Jaehyuk's gloves, but this time, he firmly holds his ground and doesn't budge. Encouraged by his progress, Minchai delivers multiple powerful strikes, all of which Jaehyuk absorbs without flinching. Impressed, Minchai praises Jaehyuk for his resilience. Smiling confidently, Minchai tells Jaehyuk that his chances of defeating Daebong have increased to an impressive 90%. Back to the present, Jaehyuk stands tall and prepared, facing Daebong with newfound confidence. Taunting Jaehyuk, Daebong asks if he is ready to be beaten to a pulp once again. Swinging his massive fist with brute force, Daebong aims to land a devastating blow on Jaehyuk. Jaehyuk braces himself, positioning his oversized gloves to block the incoming attack. The force of Daebong's punch feels like a bulldozer crashing into Jaehyuk, nearly causing him to lose his balance. However, Jaehyuk manages to stay on his feet, though visibly shaken by the sheer power of the strike. The crowd of onlookers gasps in amazement, surprised that Jaehyuk successfully blocked such a ferocious attack. Daebong, stunned by Jaehyuk's resilience, cannot believe that his punch didn't send him flying backward. Watching from the sidelines, Minchai silently cheers for Jaehyuk. Growing more aggressive, Daebong begins delivering a series of rapid punches, challenging Jaehyuk to withstand the onslaught. Jaehyuk sticks to his strategy, focusing solely on blocking each punch without attempting to counterattack. He recalls Minchai's advice, which came from her personal experience of fighting against opponents with larger builds. Minchai had explained that larger individuals tend to tire quickly, so enduring their initial attacks is the key to victory. Determined to follow her plan, Jaehyuk continues absorbing Daebong's punches, waiting for the right moment to strike. Eventually, Daebong starts to show signs of exhaustion, panting heavily as sweat drips from his body. Struggling to catch his breath, Daebong demands to know why Jaehyuk isn't fighting back and only blocking. Seizing the opportunity, Jaehyuk charges forward and unleashes a powerful headbutt aimed directly below Daebong's double chin. The impact of Jaehyuk's attack sends Daebong staggering backward, spit flying from his mouth. Daebong's eyes roll back, losing focus, as Jae-hyuk watches intently, hoping Daebong will fall backward. However, to Jae-hyuk's surprise, Daebong falls forward instead, crashing onto him and pinning him under his elephant-like mass. Jae-hyuk feels the air knocked out of him, unable to move with Daebong's immense weight pressing down on him. Moments later, Daebong regains consciousness, completely confused about why he is lying on top of Jae-hyuk. Adjusting his jaw, Daebong looks down at Jae-hyuk and smugly declares that this is the end for him. Jae-hyuk remembers Minchi's warning that if his headbutt didn't take Daebong down, things would turn very bad for him. Realizing his one attack failed, Jae-hyuk begins to panic. The other students laugh loudly at Jae-hyuk's misfortune, while Minchi watches on with concern in her eyes. Still pinning Jae-hyuk down, Daebong starts laughing and taunting him, claiming that he's about to get a serious beating. Jae-hyuk stares up at Daebong, wide-eyed and sweating profusely, completely horrified. The spectators continue mocking Jae-hyuk, pointing out that he's completely outmatched and doomed. At that moment, someone pushes through the crowd, trying to get a closer look at the fight. The students blocking the way question the newcomer, telling him he's late and should stay in the back. Flashing a confident grin, the guy introduces himself as Han Philip, a sophomore who is just here to watch for fun. Han Philip is an 18-year-old senior at the academy. Another senior, Daniel, who is calmly reading a book, asks Philip why he enjoys these kinds of chaotic fights. Once the juniors realize Philip and Daniel are seniors, they immediately step aside and let them through. Standing near Minchi now, Philip excitedly observes the fight, asking if it's already over since Jae-hyuk is pinned down. Minchi finds Philip's presence annoying, mentally dubbing him an English bastard for making such a fuss. Philip points out that something interesting is about to happen, prompting Minchi to focus back on the fight. Meanwhile, Daebong raises his fist high in the air, ready to deliver a crushing blow to Jae-hyuk. With all his strength, Daebong slams his fist down, landing a brutal punch on Jae-hyuk. Blood drips from Jae-hyuk's nose as the impact sends his spit flying in every direction. Daebong doesn't hold back, continuing to rain punches on Jae-hyuk while shouting insults in anger. Philip comments on how badly Jae-hyuk is being beaten and questions why no one is stepping in to stop it. Minchi watches the fight in complete focus, silently hoping for Jae-hyuk to find the strength to turn things around. Jae-hyuk's face is already swollen and bruised from the relentless punches, yet Daebong doesn't show any signs of stopping. Jae-hyuk recalls watching a video of a similar fight and asking Minchi for advice on escaping such a situation. Minchi had told Jae-hyuk there's almost no way to escape if Daebong successfully pins him down. She had emphasized that with Daebong's massive weight, escaping his grasp would be nearly impossible. Nervous, Jae-hyuk had begged Minchi for an alternative solution, and she admitted there was one, though it would be tricky to execute. Standing up, Minchi had decided to teach Jae-hyuk the move despite its difficulty. She had lain down on the mattress, instructing Jae-hyuk to mimic Daebong and pin her down. Embarrassed, Jae-hyuk hesitated, but Minchi insisted he follow her instructions without question. Now back in the present, Daebong continues pounding Jae-hyuk with punches, each one hitting like a bomb. Daebong sneers, claiming that in a world of survival of the fittest, weaklings like Jae-hyuk deserve to get beaten. With each punch, Jae-hyuk recalls the humiliation of being forced to eat a spider by Daebong not long ago. A single tear forms in the corner of Jae-hyuk's eye. Flashing back again, Jae-hyuk remembers Minchi showing him how to create a shoulder bridge to disrupt his opponent's balance. She had taught him to use his knee as a pivot, bending his body to flip the attacker off balance. Back in the fight, Jae-hyuk summons his strength, executes the technique, and successfully escapes Daebong's grasp. Jumping to his feet, Jae-hyuk immediately assumes an offensive stance, ready for retaliation. Before Daebong can react, Jae-hyuk charges at him and lands a devastating uppercut directly to his jaw. The crowd erupts in excitement, amazed at the sudden reversal of fortune. Even Philip expresses his approval, clearly impressed by Jae-hyuk's unexpected comeback. Some spectators question whether Jae-hyuk's punches, even with the gloves, are actually strong enough to hurt Daebong. Ignoring their doubts, Jae-hyuk dashes forward and delivers another powerful punch to Daebong's face. He follows up with a relentless barrage of punches, not giving Daebong any time to recover. The crowd gasps in awe at Jae-hyuk's fierce and determined assault on his larger opponent. Groaning in pain, Daebong feels a stream of blood trickling from his nose as Jae-hyuk continues his attacks. Seeing Daebong bleed, Philip comments that the fat giant is finally showing signs of damage. Jae-hyuk charges once more, swinging his gloves wildly, resembling the blades of a spinning fan. The spectators burst into laughter at the absurdity of Jae-hyuk's chaotic yet effective technique. Suddenly, Daebong grabs both of Jae-hyuk's gloves, locking them in his grip and rendering Jae-hyuk helpless. Stunned, Jae-hyuk quickly slips his hands out of the oversized gloves to avoid being trapped. Even Minchi is momentarily shocked by Jae-hyuk's sudden improvisation. determination. Seizing the gloves, Daebong slips them onto his own massive hands, making himself look even more intimidating. Jae-hyuk stares at Daebong in complete disbelief, his jaw dropping. Stepping towards Jae-hyuk, Daebong raises his gloved arm high above his head, preparing to slam it down. With a horrified expression, Jae-hyuk raises his lanky arms to shield his face. Daebong's punch lands with such force that Jae-hyuk is sent flying backward like a weightless balloon. Watching this, Philip bursts into laughter, mocking Jae-hyuk for even thinking he could block such a devastating attack. Jae-hyuk rolls across the ground like a soccer ball before crashing onto his back, his head spinning from the impact. As Jae-hyuk lies there dazed, a girl standing over him asks if he saw anything, while other girls nearby shout at him in disgust. Embarrassed beyond belief, Jae-hyuk scrambles to his feet, quickly apologizing to the girls for the situation. Turning back to face Daebong, Jae-hyuk takes cautious steps forward, his resolve firm despite the overwhelming odds. Daniel, still absorbed in his book, casually comments that Jae-hyuk might actually perform better without the gloves. Min-chae watches the two seniors with annoyance, irritated by how they talk as though they are expert fighters. Meanwhile, Daebong begins spinning his arm around, remarking on how the gloves feel strange and uncomfortable on his hands. Glancing at Jae-hyuk, Daebong states that the gloves don't seem to fit him as well as they do Jae-hyuk. Continuing to spin his arm, Daebong smirks and challenges Jae-hyuk to step forward if he isn't too scared. Jae-hyuk, testing his punches now that he's without the gloves, is surprised to find his strikes are noticeably faster. Min-chae, observing Jae-hyuk's movements, had already anticipated this since she knew the gloves he wore weighed 5 kilograms each. In contrast, the small dumbbells Jae-hyuk had practiced with a month earlier only weighed 3 kilograms each. Unknowingly, Jae-hyuk had been training with an extra 10 kilograms of weight, which now gave him an advantage in speed. Smirking to herself, Min-chae looks forward to seeing how Jae-hyuk will handle the fight. Daebong makes the first move, charging at Jae-hyuk with his gloved hand raised high, ready to crush him. Knowing he cannot block such a powerful attack, Jae-hyuk ducks at the last moment and successfully avoids the punch. Even Jae-hyuk is taken aback by his newfound agility, realizing that losing the gloves has made him significantly faster. Determined to counterattack, Jae-hyuk clenches his fist tightly, thrusting it forward and landing a solid punch squarely on Daebong's face. The punch is so effective that Daebong nearly loses his balance, staggering. Watching this unfold, Philip exclaims that Jae-hyuk's punch was much faster than before. Trying to maintain his tough demeanor, Daebong claims the punch didn't hurt and prepares to retaliate with his own strike. As Daebong's punch hurls toward him, Jae-hyuk notices its sluggish speed and ducks again, dodging it effortlessly. Using the opportunity, Jae-hyuk counterattacks with another powerful punch, landing directly on Daebong's face. Despite his nose starting to bleed, Daebong dismisses the punches as weak and claims they have no real impact on him. Philip agrees that while Jae-hyuk's punches are fast, they don't seem to carry enough power. Daniel calmly explains that the lack of impact is due to the massive weight difference between Jae-hyuk and Daebong. By now, Jae-hyuk is visibly exhausted, his breathing heavy as he struggles to maintain his momentum in the fight. Recalling Min-chae's advice from the previous night, Jae-hyuk remembers her warning about fighting with bare hands if he lost the gloves. She had explained that Daebong's body was covered in thick fat, making it nearly impervious to normal attacks. When Jae-hyuk had asked for a solution, Min-chae advised him to target areas with minimal fat for maximum effectiveness. With the knee being one such area, Jae-hyuk decides to shift his focus to attacking Daebong's legs. Ducking another of Daebong's slow punches, Jae-hyuk seizes the moment and delivers a powerful kick directly to his knee. Wincing in pain, Daebong mocks Jae-hyuk's kick as being just as weak as his punches, despite the obvious damage. Frustrated, Daebong swings wildly at Jae-hyuk, who easily dodges the attack and stays out of reach. Daebong's movements grow increasingly sluggish, his exhaustion evident as his punches lose both speed and power. Capitalizing on this weakness, Jae-hyuk unleashes a flurry of punches and kicks, targeting Daebong's knees repeatedly. Growing desperate, Daebong attempts to strike back, but Jae-hyuk continues to dodge while relentlessly kicking at his knees. After enduring a barrage of attacks, Daebong's knees is visibly swollen and red. The spectators start murmuring that his knees might give out at any moment. Unable to tolerate the discomfort of the gloves any longer, Daebong angrily removes them and tosses them aside. Remembering the next part of Min-chae's instructions, Jae-hyuk prepares to deliver the final blow. Daebong, immobilized by the pain in his knees, struggles to move as Jae-hyuk lines up his attack. Min-chae had instructed Jae-hyuk to target another vulnerable spot, the solar plexus, located just above the stomach. With all his strength, Jae-hyuk drives his fist forward, striking Daebong's solar plexus with precision and force. The punch knocks the wind out of Daebong. Completely dazed from the attack, Daebong leans forward slightly, unable to bear the excruciating pain. Recalling Min-chae's next suggestion, Jae-hyuk decides to aim for Daebong's jaw, just as he had seen her demonstrate before. Lifting his knee, Jae-hyuk slams it squarely into Daebong's jaw, the impact creating a loud, echoing boom. The force of the strike causes Daebong's oversized jaw to bulge backward unnaturally as he collapses face first onto the ground. Injured and slightly breathless, Jae-hyuk watches Daebong lying motionless on the floor, appearing to have passed out. Breathing heavily, Jae-hyuk wonders if he has actually won this grueling battle. The spectators, equally surprised, whisper amongst themselves, speculating if Jae-hyuk has emerged as the victor. Min-chae exhales in relief, realizing that Jae-hyuk managed to pull through after nearly losing it all. Without saying a word, she turns around and walks away from the scene. Philip bursts into laughter, finding the sight of Jae-hyuk winning, despite looking like a scrawny child, absolutely hilarious. Clapping Daniel on the back, Philip asks him if he doesn't find this situation just as amusing as he does. Daniel, as always engrossed in his book, ignores Philip entirely and silently walks away. Amid the murmuring crowd, Kwak Han-sol, the boy with mushroom-shaped hair, remains uncharacteristically quiet, his eyes fixed on Jae-hyuk. Suddenly, Hansel's face contorts with fury as he mutters that Daebong is a loser for getting defeated so easily. Realizing he has secured a victory, Jae-hyuk spins around and bolts from the scene, determined to avoid getting ambushed by other bullies. Among the cheering crowd, even the loser with glasses, who had once confronted Jae-hyuk, joins in the celebration. That same loser with glasses records Jae-hyuk's dramatic exit on his phone, laughing the entire time. Meanwhile, a girl half hidden behind a nearby wall watches everything unfold, her expression flustered yet impressed by Jae-hyuk's victory over a bully. Inside the Yangman High School building, a gym storage room houses a gathering of the school's most notorious bullies. The bullies are casually smoking and chatting amongst themselves, seemingly unbothered by the events outside. Among the group, one particularly smug bully is even accompanied by his girlfriend. This group is known as the Yangman High School Bully Union, more infamously referred to as the Invincible. Currently, they are all waiting for their president, the undisputed leader of their gang. The room falls silent as the door creaks open and the president makes his entrance, exuding authority. Slowly walking into the room, Philip casually perches himself on a raised platform, commanding the room's attention. Philip, the same individual who had witnessed Jae-hyuk's fight earlier, is the proud #1 bully of the Invincible gang. Standing behind him, still deeply absorbed in his book, is Daniel, the gang's second-in-command after Philip. Addressing the gathered bullies, Philip explains that he arrived late because he stopped to witness something amusing on his way. A bully with striking blonde hair chimes in, mentioning rumors of a promising freshman, and asks if Philip had seen the freshman fight. The freshman in question is, of course, none other than the overweight Daebong. Philip shares that Daebong didn't live up to expectations and recounts how he lost the fight earlier. The blonde bully then suggests scouting the other fighter, referring to Jae-hyuk, who had won against Daebong. Philip, however, seems disinterested and expresses doubts about Jae-hyuk's potential, dismissing the idea. The blonde bully argues that they need to start recruiting new freshmen and offers to check out Jae-hyuk personally. Philip advises waiting to see if Jae-hyuk gets stronger or remains the loser he appears to be now. A few days pass, and Jae-hyuk is seen tutoring Min-chae, who looks frustrated as she struggles to solve some problems. While Min-chae is immersed in her work, Jae-hyuk appears lost in thought, his mind clearly preoccupied. Nervously, he calls out to Min-chae, saying there's something important he needs to consult with her about. Curious, Min-chae asks Jae-hyuk what exactly he wants to talk about. Jae-hyuk explains that, just 3 days after his fight with Daebong, someone recorded the battle and posted it online. The video has made Jae-hyuk a sensation in school, and now he can't walk anywhere without being stared at. Not only that, but even students from other schools have started bothering Jae-hyuk, treating him like a celebrity. To make matters worse, Jae-hyuk finds himself bumped into by bullies at least 20 times a day. Frustrated, Jae-hyuk bangs the table and, on the verge of tears, asks Min-chae what he should do about his predicament. Min-chae tells him he should embrace the honor of being a winner, but Jae-hyuk shouts that he doesn't want this much attention. He further explains that stronger bullies constantly challenge him to fights, leaving him exhausted from the relentless confrontations. Worn out and desperate, Jae-hyuk says he just wants to live in peace without being followed or harassed. Min-chae bluntly tells Jae-hyuk that he still looks like a loser, which might be the root of his problems. Annoyed, Jae-hyuk asks her how he can stop looking like a loser together and start appearing tough. Min-chae advises Jae-hyuk to become much stronger so that no one would dare mess with him. Curious, Jae-hyuk asks Min-chae to elaborate on what she means by becoming stronger. Min-chae explains that if Jae-hyuk gains enough strength, he can make anyone who challenges him deeply regret it. She suggests that Jae-hyuk should stop avoiding fights and instead defeat his opponents decisively to send a clear message. Realizing he can't avoid fighting, Jae-hyuk wonders who his next opponent will be. The question is answered the very next day when the mushroom-haired boy approaches Jae-hyuk with a cocky grin. Standing before him, the boy introduces himself confidently as Kwak Han-sol, ready to confront Jae-hyuk. Completely taken aback, Jae-hyuk stares at him, wondering who on earth this joker could possibly be. Inside a parked Mercedes-Benz, Han-sol leans out of the window, smoking a cigarette. Sitting in the seat beside Han-sol is his friend, who casually calls out to him. As Han-sol leans back into the car, his friend asks where he got the car, and Han-sol laughs, saying he borrowed it while his dad was asleep. The friend is impressed by Han-sol's dad owning a Benz, but Han-sol laughs, saying his dad is broke and spent everything on installments. Flicking the half-smoked cigarette out of the window, Han-sol tells his friend to hold on tight for a wild ride. Revving the engine, Han-sol hits the gas pedal and speeds down the road at full throttle. The friend praises Han-sol's driving, while Han-sol brags about hitting 200 kilometers per hour. The friend asks Han-sol how things are at Yangmin High as he just entered it. With a confident grin, Han-sol says he's chilling at the new school and reminds his friend he was the number 2 bully at his old school. Laughing loudly, the friend teases Han-sol, saying he got the position by sucking up to the number 1 and never actually fighting him. The teasing makes Han-sol furious, and veins bulge on his face as his anger rises. Through gritted teeth, Han-sol insists he wasn't sucking up but was simply maintaining a strategic relationship. Han-sol adds that top bullies recognize each other and says he'll soon prove his worth to the biggest bullies at Yangmin High. Still amused, the friend asks Han-sol how he plans to do that. Han-sol confidently says he'll find a herbivore and devour him alive. The friend, completely clueless, asks if Han-sol is planning a trip to the zoo, but Han-sol clarifies he means targeting a weakling. Han-sol mentions that the weakling he chooses can't just be ordinary but must be nutritious. Naturally, Han-sol is referring to Jae-hyuk as his intended target. Laughing even more, the friend asks Han-sol how he plans to fight, and Han-sol brags that he learned boxing for 6 months. The friend asks if there's even such a loser at Han-sol's school, prompting Han-sol to affirm there is. Han-sol explains that Jae-hyuk is the one who defeated Sangbom and Daebong, 2 notable figures. The next day at school, Han-sol spots Jae-hyuk exiting his classroom and immediately identifies him as the herbivore he's been looking for. Adjusting his posture, Han-sol confidently strides forward and signals for Jae-hyuk to stop, waving at him. With a fake, exaggerated smile, Han-sol introduces himself, standing right in front of Jae-hyuk and startling him. Confused, Jae-hyuk asks who Han-sol is, and Han-sol casually mentions he's new to the school. Han-sol further explains that since he's new, he has no friends and asks if Jae-hyuk wants to be his friend. Jae-hyuk is surprised by the sudden request, but feels Han-sol seems oddly familiar. A flashback of Han-sol mocking him after his fight with Sangbom surfaces in Jae-hyuk's mind. Back then, Han-sol was clearly hostile, but his current friendly demeanor leaves Jae-hyuk puzzled. Han-sol continues his fake act, lying that he's deeply impressed by Jae-hyuk. Still skeptical, Jae-hyuk asks if Han-sol is being serious, to which Han-sol confidently affirms he is. Han-sol claims that Jae-hyuk's fight against Daebong completely changed his perception of him. He says Jae-hyuk looked incredibly cool when he defeated Daebong. Overwhelmed by the praise, Jae-hyuk is left speechless. Feeling flustered, Jae-hyuk asks Han-sol if he really thinks he's cool. Smiling, Han-sol confirms and even calls Jae-hyuk a badass, asking if anyone has ever called him cool before. Truthfully, Jae-hyuk's mom is the only person who has ever called him cool. Now, hearing such admiration from Han-sol, Jae-hyuk feels validated and happy that someone noticed his efforts. Han-sol asks for Jae-hyuk's name, and Jae-hyuk nervously introduces himself. Han-sol comments that Jae-hyuk's name sounds manly and extends his hand for a handshake. Feeling touched, Jae-hyuk shakes Han-sol's hand nervously. Turning to leave, Han-sol waves cheerfully at Jae-hyuk, who waves back with a smile. Once his back is turned, Han-sol smirks, thinking about how gullible Jae-hyuk is for falling for his act. Han-sol plans to slowly reel Jae-hyuk in before striking at the right moment. Later that evening, Jae-hyuk is tutoring Min-chae on some math formulas. After explaining the formula, Jae-hyuk instructs Min-chae to solve the questions he marked in her workbook. As Min-chae starts working on the problems, Jae-hyuk Jae-hyuk sits back, lost in thought. Suddenly, Jae-hyuk's cheeks flush red as he recalls Han-sol calling him a badass and asking to be friends. Having never had a friend before, Jae-hyuk asks Min-chae what it really means to be a friend. Distracted by her work, Min-chae snaps at Jae-hyuk to stop disturbing her and focus on his own tasks. Silently, Jae-hyuk retreats into his thoughts once more. After a while, Jae-hyuk breaks the silence, asking Min-chae why he's never seen her with friends, and if she isn't interested in making any. Min-chae responds that she came to study, not to waste time making friends, and mentions she has plenty of friends back in her hometown. Suddenly, Min-chae remembers her friend is supposed to visit her today. Confused, Jae-hyuk asks what she's talking about, and Min-chae reveals she got permission from his mom to invite her friend over. She reminds Jae-hyuk that this friend is the one with huge jugs she mentioned before. Horrified, Jae-hyuk feels like his worst nightmare is coming true. To make matters worse, the doorbell rings, throwing Jae-hyuk into a panic. Heart racing, Jae-hyuk dashes to the door to open it. Slowly unlocking and opening the door, Jae-hyuk holds his breath as his heart pounds in his chest. The moment Jae-hyuk sees the girl, his eyes widen in shock. Laughing at the sight of Jae-hyuk, Sara Hong, Min-chae's friend, waves at him and says she has heard so much about him. A few inches taller than Jae-hyuk, Sara measures his height with her hand and laughs loudly, agreeing with Min-chae's comment that he is so short. Jae-hyuk listens silently as Sara continues making fun of him, calling him an otaku because of his glasses. Min-chae appears around the corner and waves at Sara, gesturing for her to come over. Seeing Min-chae, Sara lunges at her and hugs her tightly, exclaiming how happy she is to finally see her after so long. Jae-hyuk stands nearby in horror as the girls start talking about private matters so casually, as if they were a married couple. Min-chae happily suggests there's a place nearby that sells boneless chicken feet and proposes ordering, to which Sara eagerly agrees. Turning to Jae-hyuk, Min-chae points at him and says he's the loser she told Sara about, and Sara says she already knows that. Min-chae tells Sara that Jae-hyuk gets extremely nervous around girls and blushes uncontrollably whenever he has to talk to one. Hearing this, Sara teases Jae-hyuk by showing off her body, making him go as red as an apple as he turns away in embarrassment. Seeing his reaction, Sara roars with laughter while Min-chae looks disappointed at how easily Jae-hyuk blushes. Suddenly, Sara lunges at Jae-hyuk, grabs him, and gives him a hug, causing him to scream out in horror. Like a wrestler using a spear move, Sara forces Jae-hyuk to the ground, and they both crash onto the floor with a loud thud. While Jae-hyuk trembles in humiliation, Sara locks her arms around his neck and applies an arm triangle chokehold on him. Laughing, she dares Jae-hyuk to escape if he can, but Jae-hyuk, now in tears, cries out that he doesn't know how to escape. He begs Sara to let him go, saying he can't breathe, but Sara doesn't relent, and his face turns blue as he passes out. A leg shakes Jae-hyuk, and Min-chae, standing over him, tells him to wake up while shaking him harder with her foot. Rising with a start, Jae-hyuk shouts, asking why he is lying down on the floor. Leaning down, Min-chae informs him that he passed out and then orders him to use his card to buy the chicken feet. A few minutes later, the order arrives, and the three sit around the table, ready to dig into their meal. Wanting to escape this awkward situation, Jae-hyuk asks when his mom will return home. Min-chae reminds him that his mom is away for a 2-night, 3-day company workshop. Hearing this, Jae-hyuk feels even more hopeless, realizing that his mom told Min-chae about her plans, but not him. Meanwhile, Sara pulls out a few Tetra packs containing some kind of drink, claiming it would go well with the chicken. Jae-hyuk is shocked as he realizes that the Tetra packs actually contain alcohol. As the two girls start drinking, Jae-hyuk closes his eyes in disgust, unable to watch. After finishing her pack, Min-chae wipes her mouth and exclaims that the drink tastes amazing. The girls then pick up another pack of alcohol and cheer as they continue drinking. A few hours later, Jae-hyuk finds himself the only one awake, as both girls have fallen asleep on the floor where they were drinking. He tries to whisper to Min-chae, telling her to wake up and sleep on the bed. Half asleep, Min-chae asks Jae-hyuk to carry her, so he lifts her up and walks her to her bed. Slowly and carefully, he lays Min-chae down on the bed and rests her head gently on the pillow. Taking a moment to catch his breath, Jae-hyuk is caught off guard when Sara suddenly jumps onto his back like a lion pouncing on prey. The force of the impact causes Jae-hyuk to fall onto the bed, leaving him trapped between the two girls. Both girls are fast asleep, and Jae-hyuk, who has never been this close to a girl before, starts to panic. To make matters worse, Sara places her hand over Jae-hyuk and squeezes him in her sleep. Jae Jae-hyuk desperately tries to slip out but finds himself completely stuck between the sleeping girls. The next morning, Min-chae wakes up first, sees Jae-hyuk on the bed, and asks with a warning tone what he is doing there. She threatens him, asking if he has a death wish for sleeping on the bed without permission. Jae-hyuk wakes up in a panic, realizing he fell asleep there, and stares in horror at the situation. Sarah also wakes up and starts teasing Jae-hyuk, calling him a pervert for sleeping next to them. After freshening up, the three head to the kitchen for breakfast. While eating, Sarah mentions that she heard Jae-hyuk knows martial arts and challenges him to a sparring match. Jae-hyuk is surprised by the challenge, and Min-chae explains that Sarah is also highly skilled in martial arts. Although a bit nervous, Jae-hyuk agrees to the challenge, hoping to test his abilities against an expert. They head to the rooftop, where Min-chae acts as the referee as Jae-hyuk and Sarah face off, ready to spar. Clenching his fists, Jae-hyuk raises them in front of his face, preparing to attack. To his surprise, Sarah does nothing, leaving herself completely open to attack. Cracking her knuckles, Sarah teases Jae-hyuk, asking why he isn't attacking, before gently holding his hand. Startled by her touch, Jae-hyuk is caught off guard when Sarah lands a powerful punch straight to his face. The punch sends Jae-hyuk crashing to the floor with a loud thud. Laughing, Sarah tells him to always keep his guard up since they are in the middle of a sparring session. Guys, if you like this series, then you might also like this manhwa about an OP mage protagonist.